Embodied carbon are the emissions that happen throughout the whole life cycle of the building. When we talk about the extraction of raw materials, to the manufacturing of construction products, to the construction as well, the renovation and the decommissioning of the buildings. So everything except the emissions associated with the energy we use to heat and power the building. The energy that we use to heat and power the building, it's called operational energy. And this has been traditionally the biggest source of emissions, but thanks to energy efficiency measures, this has been going down. So the share of embodied carbon emissions have been going up, because now, for example, if we build a very energy efficient building, the share of embodied carbon emissions can be up to 50% in residential buildings, for example. Of course, this share depends on what is the type of building. So, for example, we have, if you have a warehouse where there's not as much operational energy, then most of our share is embodied carbon emissions. But if we have an office building or a residential building, then the operational energy increases. In any case, it is very important to tackle both operational energy and operational carbon emissions and embodied carbon emissions. And the embodied carbon, in particularly, it is very relevant to tackle the emissions that come from manufacturing of construction materials, which is the biggest share. Also, there's a big trend as well now to decarbonize construction sites, because that's also very visible, and it's also where the second biggest share of emissions happen. And also because when we talk about embodied emissions, even though it's throughout the whole life cycle of the building, the biggest share is called the upfront carbon emissions, which is all the emissions that happen before the building is put to use. So the extraction of raw materials, manufacturing, and the construction. So the building and construction sector in Europe contributes to 36% of the total greenhouse gas emissions of the European Union. So it is very important to tackle this sector. And right now, up until now, the biggest source of emissions has been the operational energy that comes from heating and powering the buildings, the inside of the buildings. But nowadays, thanks to energy efficiency measures, this is starting to decrease, which is why it is very important to also tackle embodied carbon emissions, which is all the emissions related to the manufacturing of construction materials, the construction of the buildings, the decommission of this. So it is something that it's locked in the building once you build it, and it is crucial to start to tackle these emissions from particularly manufacturing of materials such as cement or steel, which are very energy intensive processes. As I mentioned before, cement and steel are among the most pollutant materials, and together they contribute to up to 15% of global greenhouse gas emissions. So it is very important that they are the traditional processes of manufacturing are tackled and decarbonization pathways are explored. The reason they are so pollutant is because they are carbon-intensive processes, and this is due that they require a lot of energy to achieve the temperatures needed to make the chemical reaction happen, and also because there are process emissions that are intrinsic to the chemical reactions that need to take place in order to make these materials, right? In the case of steel, these process emissions can be reduced by switching fuels, for example, but in the case of cement, they are unavoidable. So this is why it is very important to explore different options such as carbon capture and storage, or reducing the clinker to cement ratio, etc.